All right, this is Demasked episode 35 with Vic. Why don't you tell the viewers about yourself and your podcast and all that?
Okay. Well, I'm Vic. I run the Blood Prison Haunted House in Mansfield, Ohio. It's at the old Ohio State Reformatory, which was an old prison that they used back in I don't know 1890s, 1886 is when they started building it. So it's old, real gothic looking and everything. But I run the haunted attraction here that we do, and been doing it for I don't know since 2013, I guess. Not here, but like just in the industry. And yeah, I also do a little podcast, and it's fun. I used to work in radio, so I like to do that kind of stuff. Just talk to people, and like I told you a little bit ago, I could talk about Halloween and haunted houses, horror movies. I could do it all day long, so it's just a good time.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's got to be a cool setting in old prison. The
Yeah.
small town I grew up here in Colorado, there's an old prison there, and they used to run a haunted house out of there too. It was the first prison this side of the Mississippi, I believe.
Cool.
So,
Oh yeah.
and I remember that distinctly going to that when I was a kid and checking that out. And I think that's maybe why I got involved in haunted houses when I was so young.
Right. Well, this one was I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I'm an old man. So there was a movie come out back in the '90s called The Shawshank Redemption,
Hmm.
and this is where they shot that movie. I mean, like not the actual cell block scenes of that movie was shot somewhere else. They built those cell blocks, but it was inspired by the cell blocks here. But all the other stuff, the exterior stuff, and even a lot of the admin office stuff was all shot in the prison in the Mansfield, Ohio area. So the whole movie was shot here, but that's kind of what it's famous for.
Oh wow, that's cool. Like, so, how much like area do you actually use of the prison for the haunted house?
Well, geez, the haunt. I mean, it's roughly 250,000 square feet. The building. Now, I don't have all of that. I would probably say we probably got maybe 100,000 square feet. I suppose. I mean, it's we get the big cell blocks. We use both of those. Um, Plus, we have like the upstairs. We have the basement, and then even solitary confinement. So it takes about 35 to 45 minutes, depending on you know how fast you're going to get through. But I mean, it's sizable.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a big haunt.
Yeah, it
So
is. And we
yeah.
got to tear it down every year. So like the cell
Oh
blocks, and
shoot.
we put everything in. We got
Uh-huh.
like 3 weeks to do it, and then we have to tear it all down and load it onto semi trailers, and yeah, do it
Wow,
every year.
that's crazy. Yeah, one of haunted house friends of ours out here in Colorado, tearing the corn. They are like on a farm in a cornfield, and so they
Mhm.
gotta like tear down a bunch of their stuff. I'm like, that's so much work, man.
It
Their
is.
their haunts like takes like about 40 minutes to get through. It's long because it's all through like a cornfield and all this crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's a job. Now there's two sections that we don't have. Like they let us leave two sections up all year. So then like we do a, but because this is a big kind of a tourist destination, so
right.
we get it like daily tours. Like we're open right now, actually. Like there's two people touring the building right now. There's paranormal programming, so people come in and do a lot of ghost hunting. There's a whole thing like that. Plus, they do this thing called Incarceration, which is a tattoo and music fest. So they'll come in and basically the front of the building, like the outside grounds, like they put a giant stage out there. And last year they had like Slipknot, Pantera,
Oh
um,
wow.
Limp Bizkit, Megadeth, Lamb of God. They were all like played this show here last year,
Yeah.
and plus we get to open. So like the areas we keep up, we
Right.
open those areas up for guests to come in and go through. So it's like a whole complete festival with a tour of the building, music. You can get tattoos if you want, and go through a haunted house. Good time. It's a good event to
That's
run.
awesome. Yeah, I
It is.
think I've seen advertising for that festival. I'm an avid metalhead myself, so
There you
I've
go.
definitely seen advertising for that festival. I didn't know that was like actually took place at a prison though. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's why they call it incarceration because it's like a incarcerated, but you can get tattoos. Because it used to be just mostly, more about the tattoos and everything and the music, of course. But they're just expanding it, and of course, getting involved was a no-brainer for us. We're like, yeah, we'll do it because it's promoting for us, it's promotion and marketing on our end. And then plus we get to go to the show, so that helps too.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I'm sure you guys are super busy for that time of year. So you usually when do you start like setting up for the haunt season then?
So the haunt season itself, I mean, the areas that they let us that the Ohio State Reformatory lets us keep open or assembled. Um, we're throughout the year we're mixed matching in there, like changing things up, doing different rooms. So we have the time to do that. But like the big cell block scenes, um, I mean, we do that in the off season, but we start the day after Labor Day in September is our
Mhm.
first day of the build. We call it the build because we got to build the whole like two giant cell blocks plus a bullpen.
Oh, wow.
Um, so September, we got about 3.5 weeks in September, and then we open on September 20 this year, September 27th.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, that's a lot of work for 3 weeks. It's busy,
Yes, it
busy,
is.
I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
what is some of your, like, challenges, like, setting up and then breaking down like that? Do you run into any specific challenges during
Yeah,
that time?
manpower, manpower mostly.
Yeah.
Because I got a small crew that I keep on all year. You know what I mean? Like we have, I think I got all told probably 6 full-time people working all year. But come September, I need about 18. So I got
Right.
to hire out labor to come in, and it's not like a normal build where you're building houses or redecorating. It's got to be like we built giant facades and like there's buildings inside the cell block. So like our church is an
Uh-huh.
actual church inside the cell block. It's like the Blood Prison Chapel. You know what
Right.
I mean? So like we try to keep it as prison themed as we can. So it's like every prison has a place of worship. So we build a chapel. So we built an actual chapel inside the cell block. So that takes, you know what I mean? But you got to make it all light. So you're not
Right.
making it, it can't be an actual build. So you got to get the people that know what they're doing, and
Right.
that's where it's hard as far as like building a facade rather than just a regular wall.
Right. Yeah, because you gotta still make sure it's sturdy and, it's not gonna
Right?
fall
It's got to
down.
be safe and sturdy, but
Yeah.
we don't want it to be 3/4 inch plywood. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Make sure it passes inspection and all that
Oh yeah,
fun stuff that's affects the haunted house industry.
yeah, really does.
Yeah. That's awesome. What does your, like, average crowd look like for your haunt?
Like,
Like, on an average night, like, an average Saturday?
oh, I mean, like how many people?
Yeah.
I mean, it's usually like on the big heavy nights. Well, we do the time ticketing, so we kind of cap it off at 3,500. That's our biggest night. It's
Okay.
3,500 people. Before we did time ticketing, like pre-COVID, and actually 1 year post-COVID because they didn't want to do time ticketing for some reason. But we did like I don't know, it was between 5 and 6,000. But
Holy
that was
shit.
just that was hell on earth because you're stuck here till 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Trying to get everybody through. And that's just with the
Yeah.
time ticketing coming in now. It's just no brainer. We're out of here like not even half an hour after closing, so
Yeah.
it spreads everybody out and it makes the night way better.
Right, yeah, I think the busiest night I've been involved in was, like, just a little bit over 2,000.
Mhm.
Now that was crazy
Yeah.
as, like, a zone runner. It was
Yeah.
it was wild. It was, like, 6 hours of me just going crazy.
Well, it's hard
It's
on you guys,
wild.
especially, the actors when, you gotta send big groups of people through because you've got, 4,000 people outside waiting in line, so
Yeah.
you gotta get them through. So you can't just send a group of 4,
Right,
or you
right,
can, but you gotta just send them concurrently and they catch up
right,
to each other. So you might as well just send a whole group, like
right, yeah.
15.
Actually, as an actor, I quite enjoy those really busy nights because I like to try to, like, get in the crowd and blend in, and
Yeah.
that's that as an actor, that's really where I thrive is when
Yeah.
I'm, like, blending in with them because you can get in between people and do all that good stuff. For the last 2 years, I've played, like, a dual character, if that makes sense, where,
Mhm.
I have, like, a front side of my mask, I wear one of the CFX masks,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and so I have, like, my regular face on this side, and there's another face here. We took a, like, a doctor's coat and a straitjacket and split it down the middle. The backside of me was a mental patient, the front side was a
There you go.
doctor. So I like argue with myself. But the cool thing about that is because I like to be in the crowds, is I could be not looking at you and still be looking at you, and people
Yeah.
don't like that necessarily.
That's pretty cool, man. That's a good idea.
Yeah, yeah, it's I quite enjoy busy nights.
That's cool. A
They
lot of most people. That's of course, working as long as you have it. That's the nights that you lose everybody. You know what I mean? That
yeah.
they realize like, holy shit, this is work. You know?
Right. Yeah, I always say that, even to, people I meet, because I love talking about haunted house stuff, and I'll talk about it with anybody, you know, I always tell them, they're like, "Oh, when can I try out?" I'm always like, "If you're like 50-50 on it, you probably shouldn't do it because you need to
Mhm.
be all in
Yeah.
on it." You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Because you're not all in it on it, then you're just tired and you're gonna fall out. But
Right.
that's just my personal opinion about it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm lucky enough to this is what I do all the time. You know what I mean? It's a full-time job, working the haunted attraction, everything. Um, but yeah, I'm not an actor. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, but the times I have, I learned an important lesson that, it's not as easy as it looks. And, you find those muscles you haven't used in a while.
Oh, yeah. Haunt shape is, like, a real thing too.
Yeah.
Like, that first, like, the first, like, 2 weekends of of the seasons, like, that's the roughest because like, you gotta get your voice back in shape and
Hmm.
muscles are sore you didn't even know you had, so
That's right.
that's,
Oh yeah.
um that's awesome. How many actors do you have usually?
Well, I mean, in a perfect world, I would run like 100. You know what I mean?
Right.
We started last year with just under 100. We had, I think, 90. This is just a guess because my memory is horrible, but I think it was around 97 or 98, and we ended with like 78. So we lost like 20 actors
Oh, wow.
in the
Yeah.
season. But actually, ending with 78 was the best we'd ever been.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot to fill this place, and I'm an actor. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've got, I hire the people to come in and set dress, like, the top people in the industry because I want
Right.
everything to look good. And, we got animatronics, we do the props, but your actors are your core. It's a
Right.
museum without them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yep.
nobody wants to walk through a haunted museum with just animatronics going off. I mean, animatronics are cool. I love them. And they're
Right.
getting better, but
Right.
just don't foresee, even with all the AI stuff coming out, I just don't
Yeah.
foresee actors being, AI is not an actor. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's
Yeah,
like
I won't
very.
mention any names, but, we went to, one of the halfway to Halloween events in Denver,
Mhm.
one of the big haunted houses in Denver,
Yeah.
and they maybe had, like, 10 actors the whole time. It was, like, mostly just, like, animatronics, and they had, like, loud, like, house, like, music over everything. I was like, "How's"
Yeah.
I don't know, I was just like, "Why?" That doesn't fit the theme, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it was more of like a party atmosphere, and it was weird,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, you
know?
can't do it. You can't. I mean, you do what you want. I mean, when you're doing your thing. But I've always been like a proponent of actors because like I learned a lot of what I know from actors. I mean, like
Right,
David Greathouse, my buddy House. He's like known as an actor, and I mean he does movies and stuff like that too. But like he was kind of like one of my mentors that when I would watch him, and if I had a question, I would call him up, and I kind of learned from him and other people along the way. That have been in the industry for a long time, and they know that you need your actors, you need them to make it complete. And animatronic to me is a distraction to get the real
right,
scare. You know what I
right,
mean?
yeah.
But
It
I'm
it's
still a
usually
rookie.
it's usually the scares that people don't see coming, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's like,
absolutely.
they're looking at something on the wall or whatever, and then you catch them off guard. That's usually what gets people the best.
Yeah, and
Draw
it's entertainment
um,
on the level of an actor is better than an animatronic. And now the big stuff, you got a big, Unit 70 thing or a Scare Factory type
right,
situation. People will see that and be like, "Whoa," you know what I mean? But
right,
again, it's a distraction. It's getting them to look at it. You know what I mean? So your
right,
actors are essential. It's got to have them.
right, yeah, it's Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and then, Swiss cheese as, because I visited, Dark Hour in Plano and got a tour of their
Love
haunt,
to go there.
man. Yeah, and their whole haunt is like Swiss cheese, if that makes sense, because there's, like, little, like, holes all the actors can, like, pop in and
That's
scare, so,
awesome.
like, one actor can get, like, 5 scares.
Yes.
It their haunt's crazy.
Alan
It's
Alan Hops is like, just not to, he's a genius. I mean, the stuff he does, like I've taken a couple of his classes at Trans World and other places, and I've had my crew because when we go, I take always take crew with me. And if I see, something that has anything to do with anything, really, I don't care what it is, from set dressing to acting to pneumatics, animatronics, and if Alan's involved in it, I'm like, you guys are going to go to that class, and everyone that
right.
comes out of it. So I would love to go to his haunt. I've never been there. I talked to him a little bit at East Coast Haunters Convention, just real briefly. Um, but yeah, everything he does is just great. I mean, it's just he's really got an eye and an ear for everything. It's just amazing just to hear him talk and talk about how to do stuff.
Yeah, he's a pioneer of the haunted house industry
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
for sure.
Wouldn't I feel like the haunt industry wouldn't be in the place it is today without him, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I mean, people who don't know anything about anything, when they're first getting into it, they always say, I follow this guy on YouTube called Alan Hops. I'm like, you're good. He'll
yeah,
you'll learn what you need to go. My acting manager, cast manager, she goes, that was the best class. This year's it was the best class I ever took.
yeah,
Was his because just the way he explained things and how to keep your actors engaged and everything. And she was just like, I got so much valuable information. A lot of times you don't get that.
right, right. Yeah, it's important to keep everyone engaged and on on topic, you know what I'm saying? Even when there's not people, like, a group, on their way, you still want to be in that mode of
Mhm.
whatever character you're trying to portray, you know what I'm saying? Doesn't
Absolutely.
mean you have to be going crazy the whole time, it just means you wanna try to be in that mindset, so then when there is customers there, you don't have to try to reset and get yourself into that mindset,
Yeah.
and that
Well, and we're Halloween 24/7, as I'm sure you are too. I mean,
yeah.
like us here, it's all year. We don't, you know, we have a Christmas event too. We do,
Oh,
and I
okay.
love all the other events that are coming out. Like we do a Christmas event, and a lot of the haunts around here in Ohio do them. Um, there's other ones doing St. Patrick's Day's event and
Yep.
Valentine's Day events. A couple of them did Easter events, and it
Yeah.
was just like, and of course, halfway to Halloween, it's like, we're infiltrating and we're getting into all the other holidays and just
Right.
putting Halloween's mark on them, and I love it. I just think it's great.
Yeah, we did a Christmas haunt this past year, and I played, Scrooge. It was like,
Hmm.
horror of, like, Christmas pasts and stuff like that, so I played an old man. It was
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
hell yeah, and people love it. And you
Yeah,
get a whole different crowd, you know what I mean? You get this, or at least we do. We get like, I mean, of course you get our normal Halloween people, but it's a fraction compared to people that just see a Christmas event. Oh,
right,
let's go check that out. So they come in, they were like, that is so much fun. You know what I
right.
mean? They just have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think those events are even fun for, like, the actors and stuff like that because it's different. It gets everyone together, and
Yeah,
I think everyone enjoys just getting together, you know what I'm saying? It's like a
absolutely.
little
Yeah.
weird community.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we also did, a Valentine's Day one
Yeah.
too, which was a lot of fun, which got moved a weekend because there's a blizzard here the weekend that we're supposed to do it, and we got moved a weekend because of the weather, but
Yeah.
such is
Well,
life.
yeah, you live in the mountains. I imagine that's probably a normal thing.
Yeah. Yeah, some seasons we get, like, pretty lucky, but this last season, like, that last weekend we were open, it was so cold, snowy and all that. Do you
Do
guys
you
get
get
a
that?
lot of s do
Do you get
what?
that Christmas too? Do you get a snowy Christmas a lot?
Sometimes not. It's like a 50-50
Yeah,
usually.
that's same
Yeah.
here. I mean, we get snow, but it's not like Denver mountain snow or anything. But
Yeah.
you kind of want snow for your Christmas event, but never really happens. Not
No.
not on our end, anyways.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Was it I don't think it was snowing, but I know it was cold. I don't
Yeah,
think it might have been threatening to snow, but I don't think it snowed, if
right.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
But,
good times.
yeah, it's a cool crowd that comes out to that too, because you know, like you said, they're like, "Oh, it's a," I think you were talking about it on one of your episodes with somebody about the Valentine's hunt, and just, like, brings
Mhm.
out a different crowd that might not come during the season,
Yeah,
So,
yeah. The one guy I talked to about it, he did one, and Dakota, he runs Seven Gate Screen Park in Buffalo, and he was telling me that he's like, dude, it was a date night, and it was mad. We
uh-huh.
sold out one of the nights. He said it was crazy,
That is
and I'm
crazy.
it is like on a in what is it, February?
Yeah.
It's like, well, hell, it's something to do though. I mean, I'm in like if you look up Mansfield, it's not like a city. I mean, it is, but I mean, it's not like Columbus or Cleveland.
Mhm.
I mean, we're in the middle of, we're like dead between Columbus and Cleveland. It's an hour north and south. The
I
south of
see.
Columbus, north of Cleveland. So we're like dead in the middle, and it's just cornfields, farmland, and
I see.
population. I don't know, maybe 40,000, but it's
Oh,
not
okay.
like 500,000 like Columbus is. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So it's just it's a little bit different here, but
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I live in, Colorado Springs,
okay,
which is about I think it's about 500,000 here,
yeah,
and then Denver's about an hour and a half from here,
oh
if that
gotcha.
makes sense.
And the haunt you
So
work at is in Denver.
no, it's here in Colorado Springs.
Oh,
It's
it is.
called
Okay,
It's called Hellscream.
Hellscream. Okay.
Yeah, and we've had, Scare Factor come through and all that good jazz, so,
Scare Fact.
yeah.
Which ones?
The team, Zombillies, I think. I
Oh
had
yeah.
them on the podcast on one of my earlier episodes.
Is that Tyler?
Yeah, yeah, Tyler and
Yeah, I know.
Nora, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They've
Super
been through. Yeah, they've been through mine too.
yeah, super cool people. It was
Yeah,
cool to
very
talk
nice.
actually, like, get to talk to them for an hour. I really enjoy being able to talk to people from the haunt industry, and that was, the ideal behind this stuff. How'd you get involved in the haunted house industry?
Well, I mean, obviously, as a kid, watching Halloween every weekend on, in October, as a kid, being scared shitless from, Michael Myers and Leatherface and Jason, because I'm an old man, like I said earlier. That kind of gets you into it. You don't know you're scared, but you don't know why you like it so much. It's like this. I'm scared as hell, but I love this. What's this so weird? So then, you get older. I went to some haunted houses, haunted cornfields, things like that. You just kind of get the bug for it. You know what I mean? It was just like this is really cool, but I didn't really get into it like professionally until later in life. Because after I graduated high school, I went to a trade school for broadcasting and started doing broadcasting. Now I would still go to haunted attractions and stuff and go through them. But then through that, long story short, getting through the radio stuff, I met up with a guy doing a haunted house who was a special effects guy out in California. His name is Robert Kurtzman, and there's an effects company called K&B Effects, which is Kurtzman and Katero and Berger Effects in California. Well, he's the K of K&B. He's from Ohio originally, so he worked in California for like 20 years, and then came back to Crestline, Ohio, where he's from originally, and
Mhm.
had this idea to open up an effects shop. Well, before he did that, he had a pretty big building, used to be a bowling alley. They were like, well, let's do a haunt. So they did a haunt, and I was working at a radio station in Mansfield, same place I'm at now,
Mhm.
and they used our radio station for like their advertising campaign.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how I met him. Well, then the radio station closed, and he was looking for audio production guy. So I got a job with him. So worked with him, and then we opened Precinct 13 Entertainment, which became Creature Core, Robert Kurtzman's Creature Core. Which,
Uh-huh.
if you've been to Trans World, they're a vendor out there,
Right.
even to this day. Now it's not Robert Kurtzman anymore, but so that's when I really got into it. We started making props for haunted houses. Well, 2013 rolls around, and Robert Kurtzman had bought this building, this modular building from a school. It was basically sections. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it was like, so I think it was like maybe 8,000 square feet, something like that, or 13.
Right.
I don't know. It might have been like 13,000. I don't know. It was something. It wasn't huge, but big enough.
Right.
And he was like, we're going to do a haunted house. So we were jazzed. We were just like, sweet, because we make everything from mass to props at Creature Core, so we can like do all of our own stuff. And we did do other things and got stuff from other people, but for the most part, it was us.
Right.
So we did that, and we started that in 2013, and that's kind of what got me into working at the Haunt. You know what I mean? That was 11 years ago. So started doing that and just like fell in love with it. I mean, because it was just fun. It's just a fun
Right.
time. Now, I'm not acting or anything like that. I was running tickets. I was doing advertising, marketing. Back then, radio was kind of bigger back then. So like we
Right.
would set up, you know, the remotes, because I was still kind of ingrained into the industry a little bit, so I knew people. So I would do all that kind of stuff for him and do audio in the Haunt. So he's like, "Hey, we need the sound over here." All right, sweet. So I'd make up a soundtrack for whatever we were doing in whatever room. So had my hands into it pretty deep, and just it was just. And then on the nights of the event is what really got me in, because it was just so much fun. Like
Right.
from my end of it to the actors to the crew, it was fun, man. I loved going in, and I always loved going in working with him, because did stuff in movies. So like we did this movie called Hiss, and they made these giant snakes. Like watching that stuff is just amazing to do. But
Right.
then adding like a haunted attraction to the fold was just like, this is really cool. So we did that for like 3 years, um, 13, 14, and 15. And then 2016, we got the contract for the Ohio State Reformatory. And then we
Cool.
took over that on that day. And then Kurtzman wanted to stay in movies. So
Yeah.
he's like, well, I'm gonna stick to movies. And then the Reformatory, because I ran it. I mean, he was here from time to
Mhm.
time, but most of the time he was on movie sets doing, that year he was in Alabama doing a movie. And I was here running the whole thing, and the people that were here were like, look, if he's not going to come back, they offered me the contract.
Oh,
So
cool.
I couldn't say no. So I took the deal, and I'm still here. This is 2017 was the first official year of Blood Prison,
Yeah.
and we're on, this will be season 8, I think, now.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
So
so you've been at it for a while. That's amazing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm still learning, man. I'm like, I'm no Alan Hops or
Right.
Ben Armstrong or those guys. They're
Right.
mentors for sure. Those guys are just amazing. You know what I mean? But
Right.
I
I
wouldn't
think
want to do anything else.
I think learning's part of the fun, I
Yeah,
think that
hell yeah,
it's like
yeah.
I think that's
It
just
is.
a part of life, like,
Well,
if
I
you're
mean,
not learning, you're not living.
exactly. And I tell my crew all the time, like, because there's always there's issues and there's stress involved or whatever. But it's like,
Yeah.
look, guys, we're not. I tell them we're not curing cancer. We're not building rockets, man. We're building a haunt. We're building a haunted house. Let's have some fun. If you're not having fun, then what's the
What's the
point?
point? Yeah.
Yeah.
E exactly. Yeah, and that's what I tell especially, new actors, might be their first season, like, have fun with it. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just
Well,
just try to have some fun.
actors are funny because like I've had some in the past that get a little discouraged
Right.
when we train them up, we show them what to do, give them ideas, and it's just not working for them. They're not getting the scares that they want.
Right.
I'm like, sometimes it's not about that though, man. Sometimes, I mean, as long as you're doing something, like,
Right.
not every turn there's not a jump scare,
Right.
but just hang in there. And then when they get that first scare and you see it kind of click and they light up and they're just like, okay, I got it now. You know what I mean? And then they really start going forward and just moving with their fist, ready to
Yeah.
get out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and sometimes, like, for me personally, sometimes, like, if I can't scare you, I'm gonna try to entertain you in some way,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
if I get a giggle out of you, that's good too, because that means you're being entertained. Because at the end of the
right.
day, we're entertainment, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So, that
That's the
that's kinda why I tell new actors, sometimes it's not necessarily about just like the, "Blah, scare, ah,"
Yeah.
sometimes it's about getting a smile out of somebody,
Yep.
you know?
Absolutely.
And I find a lot of joy in making people giggle a little bit or,
Mhm.
they just kinda look at you like, "What'd you say?"
Yeah. Well, it adds layers and different elements to it, because most of the time you're looking at, what you're coming into, like in my instance, a big prison. Okay. So it's kind of intimidating when they pull up here. But if you
Right.
can add that layer of, that funny, like we have a big like house, like we've got a character here called the Warden's Widow. She's kind of huge on TikTok or whatever, but everyone sees her and she's 6'7", so she's tall and she's very like you know intimidating.
Right.
So you get that here, you get the intimidation, you get the scare. But then we used to have this in the house. We call it the Widow's Manor, to where she sleeps. Where her house is in the off season when the haunt season's not going on, because you gotta have that theme for it.
Right.
Um, but we have that, and then in that house we have the granny character, who is this guy who is the best at just he can come right back. Like right now, he just got an ability to do it, and he just says the funniest stuff in the world, and
Yeah.
he gives the people that are coming through, and they're all like all freaking out and everything, and then they encounter him, and he's kind of some comic relief.
Right.
And a lot of people don't like that, but I'm like, I like it because then it kind of puts you back. It sets you back a little bit, like, okay, everything's fine. So you can
Right.
get, the scares later, down the road, but he's just great at it. So
Right.
comedic value to me is I don't want a whole haunt full of comedy, but like
Right.
you can have a couple spots where you're just like, what the hell was that? And kind of giggle about it.
Right.
I think there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
'Cause at the end of the day, we can't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
kinda like with the gore, sometimes, like, if it's all gore, people, like, come desensitized to it,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So some, like, more calmer areas of the haunt's a good thing because it resets people's
yeah.
minds, gives them a second to relax, you know?
Right. Yeah,
So,
because I mean, just guts hanging out on walls everywhere and blood, the old bloody handprint trick. You know what I mean? It's just like nobody wants
yeah,
to see that like everywhere. We don't even do any of that. I mean, we do. We have blood. We're blood prison. We got blood everywhere, but
right,
it's like you said. It's more it's subtle. It's in certain areas where it'll work.
right,
Not just blood
everywhere.
all over the wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it comes a little bit, like, I don't know, too much, and
Yeah.
then it kinda throws off the immersion too.
Yeah, you
Just
don't wanna
knowing.
oversaturate yourself with one thing, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah, for sure, I totally agree with that. Yeah. Lots of fun.
Oh,
Cool.
yeah.
What is, like, your, favorite, like, horror movie, would you say?
Oh, geez. Horror I asked that everybody that on mine too. I was like, "Alright, favorite horror movie, what do you got?"
Yeah.
Um, that's hard because I mean, what pops into my head first, the first movie that actually really, like, scared me. Now, I was a kid when I watched it, I was, like, 10, and my mom had no idea I was watching it, was The Exorcist.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and that movie scared the hell out of me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Would I say it's my favorite? It's one of them, but I mean, I'm gonna throw it out. The Exorcist, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, um, Evil Dead, Evil Dead
Okay.
2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's just like they're all kind of in there. Even the first Nightmare on Elm Street. You know what I
Right.
mean? Before it got real campy and funny, it
Right.
was just like this, like centipedes coming out of their mouths, and it was
Right.
this really just out there kind of like, what the hell is this? And of course, Friday the original, like Friday the 13th
Yeah.
was great. Those old and Children of the Corn. I
Yeah.
mean, I could go on. You know what I mean? It was
Right.
just those movies that back then seemed more real because we weren't in this age that we're in now where everybody has seen you've seen everything.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Nothing is shocking anymore. But back then,
Right.
a movie looked like real life. A movie looked how you see things. So it made it more real, a
Right.
little
Yeah.
more analog. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was like, so it just it hit home a little bit more. So the scare factor was bigger back then. So like most recent horror movies, that last Evil Dead that came out, Evil Dead Rise, was pretty good.
Yeah. I
I'll give that one some props, but it's just that realism of the movie and how it looked and how it was portrayed was part of more than just like the slasher in the woods jumping out and killing somebody. Yeah, that was scary, but
Right.
because it made you afraid to walk through the cornfield after watching Children of the Corn.
Yeah.
You know
Right.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying. Yeah, after I seen that movie the first time when I was a kid, I was like, "Ooh, yeah,
Yeah.
no thanks." Yeah,
It gives you that, and that's why I think a lot of people dig on, Stranger Things,
yeah,
because, I mean, I'm not like, and I like it, it's good, but it's
right,
like the way it's shot and the looks, like, I mean, I'm from the '80s, you know
right,
what I mean? I'm like, that's
right,
what it was, that's how it looked, that's how things were, you know what I mean? So
right,
it's like, oh my gosh, that's what kinda gives it its appeal to especially a guy my age, more than just, kids, you know what I mean? Because it threw
right,
me back to that, like, man, this looks like Children of the Corn, only not as scary, but it looks like it. So it
right.
puts you in that time frame, that it
Yeah.
takes you back in time a little bit, which is
Well,
really
also
cool.
I also think, like, the way, like, films were shot back then was, like, way different, you know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah,
I think there's something to be said for, like, practical effects and stuff
sure.
like
Oh
because
yeah,
there's way too many
absolutely.
movies these days that just use green screens or
Yeah.
whatever to get the effects they want, but,
A lot of
really I
them don't even need it anymore as green screens. They just, they'll make the actual, like, a friend of mine made a prop, and I was
Uh-huh,
looking at it going, so this is going to be in the movie? He's like, yeah. I was like, is this the movie ready right now? The hero piece? He's like, yeah. And I was like, doesn't look finished. He's like, well, it's not because they're going to digitally enhance it. So they only
right.
need so much of it. And I was just like, oh, like, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's something to
Come
say
on.
about those, like, practical effects,
Yeah.
especially, like, Evil
Yeah.
Dead 2,
Yeah.
the original Exorcist. I watched the original Exorcist again recently, and it I actually quite enjoyed it. It's like a slow burn, and it's
Yes.
really, really, really good. And I thought,
It is.
because
Well,
I
even the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, first one, same way.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It was just like, you're kind of waiting for it. And, that's part of it. You know what I mean?
right.
You're just
Yeah,
sitting there on the edge of your seat.
right, yeah, I would agree with that. It's not just, like, gore in your face the whole time.
Yeah.
More of a slow take even like, Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th, no one really gets killed till, like, 20 minutes into the movie, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's like a slow burn, and he's, like, stalking the kids at the lake and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's
No
some
hockey mask.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Movie I've recently enjoyed, like, my favorite horror movie, like, in recent years is probably Hereditary. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
Nope,
That's
haven't seen that one.
it's a slow burn. It's really, really, really good.
Yeah,
It's a paranormal movie, but it's just, like, 2 hours of watching this family just descend into complete madness.
I'll write it down.
Yeah,
I'll check it out. Hereditary, yeah.
it's a wild film, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
I'm
not
always
like
looking for something to watch, something new to watch that's, not a remake or a sequel to a movie that was 50 years ago.
right, right, yeah. Yeah, Hereditary is a good one, it's a wild film. Just
Oh,
the
yeah.
way it was shot, and it's just, like usually, I'm not a fan of, like, paranormal movies like that, if that
Mhm.
makes sense, like Paranormal Activity, I'm like, "Eh,
Yeah.
it's overplayed," you know what I'm saying? The Conjuring, I'm
Yeah.
like, "Eh,
Yep.
it's all about jump scares and,
Yeah.
eh, eh."
Yeah, you kinda get, like we were talking earlier about, you kinda just get used to it, or you get, it's just
Yeah,
like, yeah, they get predictable, I think. You know what I mean?
right,
Final Destination, you get to the point where it's like, all right, here they go walking toward the street. Someone's gonna get ran over. You know what I
right,
mean? But at
yeah,
first you're thinking, whoa, that was cool. You
right,
know what I mean?
yeah, and I like movies that are different, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
special or they try to do something different, which is cool,
Well,
you know?
it's like, it's almost like music. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Everything you can do, like, there's so many movies that come out now.
yeah,
Just like music. There's so, like, anybody can put a record out, and you can get it on Spotify, you can get it on Apple, you know, it's not like you need record companies or movie companies anymore.
right.
The movies are out there, and sometimes you find a gem, you
Yeah,
know, sometimes you find a gem that, like, no one's heard of yet, check it out, and it's actually pretty good.
right, yeah, one of those for me is, there's this movie called The House That Jack Built.
Mhm.
It's a horror movie, and it is a twisted horror movie. I was like, "What the hell did I just watch?" It was wild.
Yeah.
It's about, like, I guess it's like loosely based on Dante's Inferno.
Okay.
But basically the movie's about this dude who's a serial killer, but he like makes art out of his victims.
There you go.
It's a wild ass film.
Yeah.
I was like, this is
Sounds like it.
crazy.
Yeah, and also with like movies and music, both. There's more coming out, but it's almost like you got to go out and find it because what you're going to get on, from a major movie company, you might not like, because the way the world is now, you know what I mean? With,
Right.
things you can say and can't say, which doesn't affect me because I don't give a shit. I say whatever the hell I want. But,
Right.
that doesn't affect me. But when everyone else does all that noise, it affects what you see. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah, it
like,
affects media,
yeah,
especially especially the movie industry. You can see
yeah,
the change there, and you see a lot of horror movies and stuff like that that are afraid to do things.
yeah.
It's
And
kind of
that's
sad.
especially horror movie. Horror and comedy are the two things that you can't put reins on them and rein them in. They just can't do
Right.
it. Or it's not as effective.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know
a
what I
huge
mean?
fan of stand up too, and think gosh, I can't remember, but what one of the comedians recently was like, stand up's dangerous again.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it really is.
it's true. Yeah.
But that's why people are watching it though, because most people want that. They want to see that guy, whether it's a comedian or they want to see that movie that is edgy. Like
Right.
we
Yeah.
went to we Sonic Temple was just this last weekend. It's a music fest in Columbus, Ohio.
Right.
Big music fest at the soccer stadium. And they had the Misfits
Oh
headline
shit. Yeah.
on Friday night. Original Misfits, Glenn Danzig, Jerry
Oh
Doyle.
yeah.
It was all of them, and they were doing things. I mean, if you listen to the Misfits or if you know any of their music,
Yeah.
it's very Halloween driven. It's very just fucked up music. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and Glenn Danzig doesn't care. He's going to say whatever he wants. And there was one when they played the song Bullet, which no one thought they would play.
Right.
He
That's
said
a
that he's
deep
like,
cut. Yeah.
yeah, he's like, you can't play music or record music like or write music like this anymore,
Right.
because you'll get canceled or whatever. And he's just
Right.
like, so here's one called Bullet. And when they started playing, I mean, the place went off, and they had these giant screens, and it was just the Kennedy assassination,
Yeah.
like on these giant screens. Now they didn't actually show it, the
Right.
actual assassination, but they kept showing like footage of Kennedy driving and everything, and then right at the
Right.
end, they show the assassination.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and it was like they were showing like the American flag, then they would show Confederate flags, and
Yeah.
that's another no-no
Right. Hot
tag.
topic. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's punk rock, man. That's what
Yeah.
they did, and it's like I was just like, not because I'm, a fan of the Confederacy. Don't put me on there. I'm
Right.
just saying the fact that they did it
Right. Means
was
something.
like, we're gonna do
Yeah.
what we're gonna do. It's not about that. It's about the fact that we're doing
Right.
it because we can.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I feel that. I'm a huge metalhead myself, and that's something I really enjoy about like death metal or
Mhm.
like thrash. Like these people just they don't care. You know what I'm saying? You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? Like Cannibal Corpse, they don't care. They know they're doing it for the shock value, and they've never cared. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
And I think that's cool, especially in this state. Like Guar. You know what I'm saying? I
Man,
love Guar.
I got to
Guar's
talk
so good.
to Quar
Oh, really?
podcast. Yeah, if you go back, it was been about it was a year ago in July. I got to talk to the singer of War. They let me come back and do a quick interview with him,
Oh,
uh,
cool.
which was fun. And he was all in his garb, he has dicks hanging out there. It was just great.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Guar
he was, and he
Guar's
was
amazing.
yeah. And they did this because they were in incarceration last year, and then they had the big things just spraying blood all over people.
Yep.
Next, people are walking around just
That's a
going,
Guar
oh,
guy.
there you go.
Yeah.
Hell yeah,
So,
yeah, it
yeah,
was
Guar.
great.
Yeah. But they don't care. You know what I'm saying?
Who?
Like I remember when I think Kathy Griffin, she got in trouble for holding that severed Trump's head, you know.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
guys from Guar was like, "Hey, that's our bit. Stop it."
yeah.
No one cared.
Right.
which I
No.
think's hilarious, but it's like
Well, I mean, come on. It's like it just goes back to the old thing of if you don't like it, then don't watch it. I
right,
mean, you don't gotta, your day doesn't have to be ruined by. I'm not gonna watch a soap opera. I don't care about
right,
that shit, so I'm not gonna watch it. You know what I mean? I'm
right,
certainly not gonna go out and protest them. You know what I
right,
mean? It's just those kind of things. That's just me. I mean, you're free to
right.
do whatever you want, but I just can't let something that I might not agree with ruin my day. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
I don't
why should you do that?
yeah, I don't understand that either,
Yeah.
and some people, like, especially even I mean, I feel like I don't know about you guys, but I feel like even as an actor, in the haunted house, sometimes I have to watch what I say because it's like
Yeah.
I don't wanna offend anybody, which is it can be tough sometimes because I have a hard time having a filter sometimes, so
Well, it is, and we have rules here.
right,
We have guidelines. It's like there's certain things you say, certain things you don't. Um, but the haunt world to me is a lot of people come here to a haunted house to act to work because they just don't fit in everywhere else,
right,
and they know when they get here and they kind of get around us, they're like, these guys get it. They're not going to judge me just because I'm a little different or
right.
kind of weird or I'm a freak about certain things or I love horror or Halloween. No, that's what we want, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, but there are guidelines, you know what I mean? It's like we
Yeah.
don't allow like swearing
Yeah.
on the floor.
Right.
Um, but when I act, like I act on Sundays.
Uh-huh.
And again, I'm not, I just started doing it a couple years ago, so I'm not, I seen everybody and I know what I like and everything, but I'm like, I'm just gonna go out and do it. I put a
Yeah.
jumpsuit on, put a skin mask on, and out to the floor I went. And my goal for the last 2 years has been to get a complaint. I want to
Yeah.
see where my line is. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm gonna because it would be funny too if I got if they complain and they call the manager up to the front because then it's gonna be me. That's kind of my goal is like I'm gonna see if I can get a complaint. Now I know I really could if I wanted to, but I'm
Right.
trying to find that edge. You know what I
Right.
mean? But
Where it is.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I've done some wild shit and I have not got a complaint yet. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
I've said some really wild stuff. I've done some wild stuff, and I know at one point they were just like that. I guess they told management that I just wouldn't leave them alone, but it's because they made themselves a target, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a whole zone I run around, and it's like, well, if you're gonna make yourself a target by being an idiot, then I'm just gonna be an idiot right back to you, like
Yeah. Well, and most of the time, it's like because especially when you like if it's an actor that like I've had for a while that's been on my crew, and
Yeah,
they say, like one I can't remember exactly. They said something about they were because we do a touch pass here, so it's like you can get a touch pass, and it's not like over the top or anything, but
yeah,
just to add some extra intensity, we'll grab your arm and maybe pull you a little bit, or
right,
just grab you from behind, just get that extra, because it's just kind of fun that way. But um, somebody said they were tackled or thrown. She threw me to the floor
right,
and got on top of me, and I'm just like, okay, and like that's just like no. I knew right away they were full of shit, and they just wanted their money back. But I was like,
right.
really, who? And she was like, oh, it was the nun in that. And I was like, now I know you're lying. That little girl couldn't throw anybody to the floor. You know what I mean? So it was just
You're
like,
right.
sorry, we don't do refunds. It
Yeah,
is what it is. You went through.
yeah, and,
Uh,
Hellscream, they, experiment we do, like, touch passes for, like, blackout weekend, if that makes
mhm.
sense.
Yeah,
That's what we do, not during the normal season, just, like, blackout, and that's always a lot of fun.
yeah,
Lots of fun. Like, I took one guy this year because we have pass-throughs and stuff like that, and he, like, stopped like, a fake, like, fire and, like, acting like he was warming up his hands, so I started warming up his hands with him, and I knew where his friends was at, so I kinda pushed him through on the pass doors right into his friends. It was hilarious.
there you go. We had one here. It was called the Haunted Hoorah, and
Yeah.
they would bag you like if you bought that pass because you could do just a regular haunt experience or the
Mhm.
extreme pass, and it was very military themed. So they'd give you like dog tags
Uh-huh.
that you get to keep, which was
Oh,
kind of cool.
cool.
I still got them, but like they put you on this military transport
Uh-huh.
and they would drive you. Now, really, they were just driving you like maybe around the block, but they would take hard turns, and you're like, "What the hell's going on?" Then you get out, and you'd get out of the transport, and they would put a bag over your head and put your hands on the guy in front of you, and you'd have to walk, You know what I mean?
Right.
And we dominoed, man. The guy in front fell, and then we
Uh-huh.
just whoop, we all fell down. We're like, what the hell's going on? And we like get up, and they're like, oh, on your feet. They're just yelling at us. I was like, what the hell? And then we got in, and they pulled the bags off, and we were like in the haunt. So it was like so disorienting. And then this
Right.
nurse had a knife that when she touched you with it, it shocked the hell out of you. And
Wow.
luckily, yeah, I got that. And then they would feed you stuff, and I was just like, oh, I ain't eating that shit. But they went like extreme, and
Yeah.
it was fun, man. We had a blast. It was a lot of fun. We wanted to go again. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I really want to go out to, I think it's like, s- it's out in California. I think it's like 17th door or something like that. And they started like the extreme, but like you can like opt out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Or it's like 13th door, something like that. And early on, I had a lady who went and she like, I think it is 13th door. And there's like a barbershop area. And if you sit down in the chair, they'll cut a 13 into your head, into your
Nice.
hair.
That's cool.
But
That is cool.
they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff in there. They kinda got popular on, like, Instagram and stuff this past year,
Yeah.
and so, like, one of the things that got popular on Instagram for them was, like, they had, like a shooting range area where they, like, bag people's heads, and they'd have other customers shoot them with airsoft guns.
There
I
you
was like,
go.
"This place seems wild."
Yeah. That would be wild. At East Coast Hunters Convention. We went to Markov's Markov's Haunted Trail, I think is what it was called.
Uh-huh.
Haunted Woods. Markov's Haunted Woods. And that was just, I mean, it wasn't a touch experience really,
Right.
but wow, that was an amazing haunted attraction. But you walk through this like kind of an old west type of town at first,
Uh-huh.
and you go into the saloon, and the guys kind of like start a fight with you, and then the one guy shot me in the head. He walks up, boom, he shoots me. I'm like, and I kind of just played into it. Well, then they separated me from the group. The group got to go. They drugged me to the back, and there's this girl standing there, and I was just like, hi, and she was like, hey, and she like gets her makeup out and starts drawing a bullet hole. She did a makeup bullet hole in my head from where they shot me, and then like let me go back into the group. So I was like, all right, that's cool. So I got my
That
picture taken with a bullet hole in my head.
that's pretty cool.
I was
That's
convinced
not
she
a
was
bad
drawing a
idea.
penis on there. I thought it was going to be a big joke, but apparently it wasn't.
Just draw a big dick on your head.
That's what I said. She was drawing. I go, you're drawing a penis on my forehead, aren't you? She started laughing. She goes, no, I'm not drawing a penis. I'm like, all right, I'm just making sure.
Pretty funny. That's a pretty cool ideal though,
It
just
was.
to
It was
have.
cool.
Yeah,
That
I'm
hunt was
sure.
amazing. That trail was the best haunted trail I'd ever been on.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I
I
mean, I know it's
started.
yeah, it's out in Maryland. It's outside of DC.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I started acting at a haunted trail, like a
Mhm.
charity haunted trail, so I get it. Haunted trails, it's just a different vibe, you
Yeah,
know? There's something about that actual, like, darkness of outside that it kinda changes things,
it
you
really
know?
does. And then when you're walking in dirt and on rocks, you know what I
Right.
mean? It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. It's like a tear in the corn, um like, it's in a cornfield, so you're, like, walking through an actual cornfield the whole time, and it's a whole different vibe, man, it's creepy.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
S Throws it back to that, Children in the Corn creep
Yeah.
fest, you know?
Yeah, it's funny when
'Cause
you're a kid, you watch that movie, and then when you're at a cornfield, you swear you see something. I swear I saw something. You can see
right. Yeah. What movie really messed with me when I was a kid was, like, 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
That movie scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that's probably one of my favorite horror movies of all time, just the way it's done is
Yeah.
real good. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Right
you
on.
don't strike me as a, what was that movie? The glittery vampires. What were those
Oh,
called?
Twilight?
Twilight, yeah. You don't
Yeah.
strike me as one of their type of fans.
Oh, no. No, I did so I have a sister, and they came out around my sister's birthday, so I used to
Yeah.
take my sister to see it. So I've seen them all, and they're freaking awful.
My daughter was, like, heavy into it. I'm like, "Do you know who I am? You're giving me a
Yeah.
bad name here," you know what I mean? But, yeah, it was just like I watched some of it, I'm like, "How
"What
are
is
these
this crap?"
vampires that are walking around at night or during the day? I don't get it," you know?
Yeah.
Well, they
Me
can
and
do
my
that.
girlfriend always joke about that. We're like,
Yeah.
"I have the this is the skin of a killer."
Yeah, 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 okay.
So stupid. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of my favorite, like, TV shows currently, though, is, What We Do in the Shadows or What They Do in the Shadows.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's about vampires on, modern day Staten Island.
I've heard of
They're
the
like
show, but I haven't watched any of it.
oh, it's so funny because they're like actual vampires, and I like to think that if vampires were a real thing, that's how they would act.
Right?
Like, the first episode, like, the Baron's gonna come visit them, and so one
Mhm.
of the vampires, he's, like, in the grocery store, and he goes, "I'm going to buy some glitter to make myself look like Twilight." So funny. It's like a vampire show and, they're killing people and stuff like that, but it's also like a comedy and shot like a
Yeah,
documentary. It's hilarious.
dark comedies, man. I love it.
Yeah, it's so funny.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, yeah, if you like that kind of like dark humor, it's great. Great show.
Oh, yeah. I love it
So,
all.
yeah, me too. Well, I appreciate you doing this. This has been really awesome. Where could people find you on social media and your haunted house and all that, your podcasts and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so Blood Prison is, we're on all the normal social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We got a YouTube channel. Of course, website, bloodprison.com. And then we've got The Shakedown, which is the podcast I do. Um, that is on Facebook and Instagram. Well, the social media is Facebook and Instagram. You can hear the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts is where we're at right now. So yeah, check it out. I mean, it's kind of what we do. What we just did here. I got a little studio over in the office over here, and we just kind of, we sit and talk horror, Halloween, haunted houses. Um, it's a good time. I just like to bring people in and just like what we did, just kind of, talk shop and bullshit and swap stories and, Halloween war stories, if you will.
Yeah, same. That was the whole thought behind this thing, and when I found your podcast, I was like, "There's another one. There's someone else out there trying to do it." So cool. So
Well,
that's
and of
why I was
course,
like,
there's I'm on another one that's coming up I think on Friday that I'm doing, or Thursday or Friday.
"Uh huh,
Another podcast, a guy here in Ohio, Chainers Haunt Secrets or something like that.
huh,
And of course, then you got the big scary show. I talked
yeah,
to been on Drew's show a few times, or well, I think twice. Um,
yeah."
but yeah, I
I
mean they're around. They're
Yeah,
around.
I had Jerry Vane on one of my
Yeah.
episodes too, and he's on the Big Scary Show.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Do
yeah.
you ever go to Trans World?
No, I always end up something always ends up happening where I can't go, but I
Yeah, you got
really
jobs.
wanna go. I wanna get out there and start trying to go to more haunt conventions. It's
Yeah.
just about, planning it out and working it out with my day job and
Yeah.
all that good
I
jazz,
feel you, man. I feel you.
so,
We've all been there.
yeah. Stop making that I would love to. I really wanna try to get more involved in the haunt industry because at the end of the day, it's my passion. I love it to death,
Oh
think
yeah.
about it 24/7. So, talk about, like, haunt stuff with, like, coworkers, like normal people, and they just stand there and look at you like, "What's wrong
Yeah.
with you?"
Oh, this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Happens all the time. Alright, well, thank you for doing this again. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. Anytime.